That thing's
Sorry.
so loud.
I know.
All right. Hi, everyone. Thank you for coming out today to listing descriptions, how to write one, why it's important. I know most of you, but let's just go around real quick and introduce yourself and tell me what you hope to learn from this class today. I'm gonna start, Ed.
I'm Ed and I want to sell the sizzle.
Sell the sizzle. Okay, we'll work on some sizzle. You might need a copy of the, oh, I was gonna hand those out when I get to that part. Good, that's okay, thank you.
I thought you already did. I'm Beth, and I also would like to sell the sizzle and make my descriptions not like everyone else's.
Good, good reason.
Hi, I'm Karen, and I'm not sure what this sizzle is, but I think I want it.
Okay.
I'm pretty new, so I had my first listing, and Justin helped me with that, but he said to come to this class, and here I am.
Okay, welcome.
And I'm Tara. I'd like to be able to write an effective listing description, and the sizzle would be nice too.
Sizzle's nice. All right.
Hey, I'm Michelle Viana. I just want to know how to say anything else besides buy this beautiful home. You know?
Yeah. Add some varieties to
Yeah.
your descriptions. Okay.
I'm Kat. I'm getting ready to list my personal home, so I really need some sizzle.
Okay. All right.
Yeah, I'm Erin. I need sizzle
And everything they said.
Okay.
Justin.
Oh, I'm hiding in the corner. I don't exist over here. No, I'm Justin. I'm the team leader here, and I'm here to just watch and learn and.
Get some sizzle.
Get some sizzle. Awesome. Well,
You found something with that sizzle.
yeah, no, sizzle is good. We might have to figure out a way to incorporate that in, but we'll get to keywords in a minute. I'm Jessica Falb. Everyone calls me Jess. I got my license in March of last year. But more importantly, I started freelance writing for a real estate developer in 2005. At the time, I was in social work. My daughter was born. Didn't want to go back to doing that full time. I was kind of desperate to find something that I could do from home, make a little bit of money. And I answered an online ad and ended up working for that developer, which in a roundabout sort of way led to 10 years in book publishing, where I handled all aspects of the submission, production, editing process. We did the content editing, copy editing, producing ebooks and print books. I also did the marketing, website design, lots of internet marketing. After Amazon really changed the publishing industry with their self-publishing platform, I went back to freelance writing, and it was mostly realtors who wanted help me with my descriptions, my website content. And I'm still doing that on the side here and there for a couple of agents here in town whenever they need me. So first question, why do you think a listing description is important, a good listing description?
First impression is in the door.
In the door, first impressions. Yeah, good. You want an attention grabbing listing. I do have my little notes here, so pardon me if I look down. I want to make sure I stay on track. Okay, so yes, it's important to have something that grabs attention. But going back to that first freelance writing job I had with the real estate developer, that is where I really learned the difference between fiction writing or writing for personal purposes and writing for business. At the time, it was 2005, and I was probably about the 30th person to respond to the ad for a writer. I had no experience, I knew nothing about home building, but he was focusing on hurricane-proof homes, as he called them. So I thought, okay, well, I can do that. And he said, but here's the catch. My son has these newfangled ideas about search engine optimization and keywords. And every other writer I've talked to has either laughed at me or told me I'm crazy, and then I'm not going to tell them what to write. Would you be willing to write what I tell you I want using these keywords that my son's put together? I'm like, well, hey, I don't have to go back to social work. I'll write what you want me to write. So that's what I started doing, where he would send me lists of words that he wanted me to include in the copy, and I'd write about the houses, the communities he was building in to help with his internet marketing. And come to find out, that stuff works. We've all heard of search engine optimization now, right? And keywords, that's familiar. Yes, okay, good. So They are especially effective when it comes to listing descriptions because you have common things that people search for when they're looking for a home, especially in our area of Florida. Can you think of anything someone might put into a search engine if they were golf course, waterfront, oceanfront? Yes, good. So this is just something I printed out online. This isn't my personal list, but it's got a lot of them that I use. But this is kind of to demonstrate all you really have to do is go on to Google and look for keywords that sell, or what keywords are buyers searching for, and a lot of things will come up. And then also in your experience as realtors, I'm sure you've heard a lot of the same things over and over. People ask about, oh, thank you, schools, shopping, all different things that they're looking for in a home. So if you can manage, we'll get into the actual anatomy of a good listing description, but if you start with your keywords, it gives you a really good well of content to try to incorporate into your listing description as you're writing it. So obviously the home is going to dictate the keywords, right? So depending on what kind of home it is, where it's located, that's going to help you determine what sorts of keywords you want to use. Yes? Yes.
Yes.
Yes, yes.
Okay, good. So basically, if you've got, and this is part of our, one of the pitfalls where you have to make sure that you're using the correct words to reflect the listing that you're trying to write a description for. So let's say you have a fixer-upper, needs lots of work. Would you call it charming?
No.
Some will,
Some well, but that's, yeah.
some will.
How about move-in ready? Would that be a
That's
good
a
one?
them.
No, exactly. You would be surprised. A lot of times when I still do listing descriptions, I will go online to see if it's been listed before, was it expired, did it not sell, and why. And a lot of times I can tell just from the listing description. There was one of my favorites. It was an oceanfront estate. I went and looked at the old listing description. It had been listed for probably 2 years, didn't sell. It was plagiarized directly from the architect's website in New York City. The agent on a multi-million-dollar listing had pulled all of the content from the architect who built the home and just pasted it into MLS. And it was all architectural terms that most lay people would have no idea what you're talking about. It may as well be written in Chinese, but that's definitely not what you want to put out there. Number one thing, never plagiarize. Always make sure that you're writing original content. And if you are taking an expired listing, there's nothing wrong with looking at what was done before, because hey, maybe there's a feature in there that you didn't think of pointing out. Or it can give you some good clues as to why the house didn't sell before and how maybe you can do something a little bit better, but always try to make sure you're putting it in your own words. So looking at our descriptive keyword list, what words would you use for, let's talk about our fixer-upper.
Location.
Location, that is a big one.
Investor special?
Yes, investor special, good one. Oh, you guys can't see the keyword list. If anybody who's on Zoom wants a copy of the keyword list that I handed out, just let Brandy know.
Let's see if I can.
Are you gonna hold it up?
Well, I'm gonna see if I can't scan it.
My lovely assistant is going to. So investor special, focus on the location. These are really good things because no matter what kind of condition a house is in, there's got to be something you can say about the neighborhood. And that's usually where I finish up. So we'll touch on that with the anatomy of a listing description.
So if you're like centering in more on the yard, large yard.
Mm-hmm. Well, and again, usually you got to say a little about the house, but saying investor special, fixer upper, needs TLC, or I think my last one, my tagline was a diamond in the rough. That conveys pretty well that the interior of the house and possibly the exterior as well is going to need some work. So you're being completely upfront there. But so, okay, you've displayed the warts. Now let's try to find all of the great things about it. A big yard. Does it have a big yard? That's a selling feature for someone who has kids or pets. Is there a fence that's still standing? Also something good to mention. Is it the ugliest house on the nicest street where you're right down the street from the river or a couple blocks off the beach or close to local areas of interest, such as
If you could put ugliest house on the prettiest street.
you absolutely could.
Or creativity,
Yes, exactly.
give them, right?
Right. Yeah, you want to try to be as creative as possible. I mean, within reason. I mean, you don't want to say something completely outrageous, but that's a good thing that will grab attention because everyone has, read listing descriptions. There's only so much you can say and so many different ways to say it. But I do notice that people tend to fall into the same old, almost laundry list of number of bedrooms, number of bathrooms, blah, 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 blah. And they all kind of sound the same. So anything you can do to set your listing apart is good. And that tagline is actually where we start with the anatomy of a listing description. When you've got your keywords and you've given some consideration to the listing itself, what kind of house is it? Where is it located? What features are you going to emphasize? And conversely to the fixer upper, if you've got an ocean front, ocean, we all know you've got to emphasize the beach. Is it a no drive beach? Try to come up with the things that you think are really going to grab that person who's looking to come and live on the water and take advantage of the coastal lifestyle. So the first thing you're going to want to do is your tagline. So that's the first thing people see, like Erin said, ugliest house on the prettiest street, or your seaside retreat awaits, or the perfect starter home, bring the kids and the dog. Something that is going to really pull the audience in that you're looking for. Are you trying to get families? Are you trying to get, people with kids, family neighborhoods? Is it a great school district? Are you trying to, yes?
Just be careful out there housing.
That is in our pitfalls section, trust, yes. Gotcha. Yeah, obviously you always have to be careful what you say, but saying beautiful home for the whole family, that certainly I don't think would violate any kind of fair housing rules. So this is going to be very important because it's the first thing that people see and it's what's going to make them keep reading or keep scrolling. So after your tagline, you're going to have the body of the listing description, which is kind of like when you used to write paragraphs in school. They would tell you to have your, I know. They would tell you to have your thesis statement, which is basically the equivalent of a tagline. Put as much as you can to describe the property in as few words as possible and grab attention. Then you've got your body, which is where all the meat and potatoes are. What should you put first, do you think?
High point, like pool,
Yes, pool.
natural lighting.
Number of bedrooms and baths. Usually you want to try to make your first sentence all of the really important stuff that people are looking for. Number of bedrooms, number of bathrooms, does it have a garage, does it have a pool home? So for example, if you had, you'd say 3-bedroom, 2-bath, pool home located in charming seaside community of Ponset. So you've told them how many bedrooms, how many bathrooms, that it has a pool and where it's located. And you've managed to throw in a little descriptor word there too. So the more you can put into that first sentence of the body, the better, because then that's going to mean if that's what your people are looking for, they're going to keep on reading for the rest of it. Now, after your first information, that's when you want to start getting into special features. Does it have a chef's kitchen? Kitchens are huge. That's what a lot of people are looking for. If it does have a really great kitchen, try to use, don't just say tile, say 12-inch imported tile from Italy. Make it interesting and put the details in there that set your listing apart from everyone else's. And especially if there's, I think on this list, it has the Bosch appliances. If there's another kind of Viking range, people who cook a lot are going to know these terms, and it's like catnip for someone who's looking for that big, beautiful gourmet kitchen. Another thing people tend to like is open concept. So if it does have a big open concept, I'll go straight from kitchen, opens into living room. And you can talk about how easy it is to entertain, cook while entertaining your guests in your oversized living room with fireplace and sliders onto the lanai. Is this making sense?
Yes.
Okay, cool. Slow me down. If anybody wants me to stop and go into more detail, just wave. Or for Zoom, you can unmute and just be like, hey, Jess, question. And the way I tend to think about writing a listing description is almost as if I'm walking through the home myself as a buyer would see it and looking for the things that people tend to be attracted to first, which again tends to be kitchens, living space, anything that is going to make them go, aha, I can see myself living here, or that's what I'm looking for. So you can go from kitchen opens to living room, talk about the living room, then you can talk about bedrooms. And if it's multi-level, you can almost go level by level. But for bedrooms, what's the most important thing people look for with master bedrooms? Ensuite, yes. What else? I heard
Size.
Size, yes. Is it oversized, generously sized? Does it have vaulted ceilings? Does it have crown moldings? Does it have
Walk-in closet.
walk-in closet? Yes, that's a big one. Does it have professional closet organizing, an organizational system? Have they had California closets come in and deck it out with shoe racks? And remember too, you're gonna have women a lot of times reading the listing description and I know I love shoes and closets. So if it has wonderful organizational systems, I always make sure to emphasize that because people like that and it's something they don't have to invest the time and money in having to do themselves. Are there his and hers closets? Is there, like, some of them will have two giant master closets, one for each person. And then the en-suites with the bathrooms, what are some things you could say about a master bath that you think would be appealing?
Walk-in
Soaking
shower,
tub.
Soaking tub, yes.
A bidet.
There you go. You can certainly mention the bidet. After COVID and the toilet paper wars, I think those are a lot more attractive than they used to be. People might be like, yes, bidet. And again, think about as you're writing this, not just does it have a soaker tub? Is there a particular brand? Is it jetted? Does it have upgraded fixtures? Is the stand-up shower, does it have the river rock bottom? Or does it have travertine tile? Or any extra detail that you can put in there is going to make your listing and description stand out because you're talking about the unique features of the home. So anytime, and even when you're doing the walkthrough, if you come in and there's beautiful hardwood floors, ask, what kind of wood is that? Is it Brazilian cherry? Is it oak? Is it engineered hardwood? What is it? And if it's something special, make sure that ends up in your listing description.
What if there aren't any really special?
If there aren't, tile is actually a keyword that sells. So if there's tile in the house, mention the tile flooring in addition to whatever kind of flooring, tile and carpet, tile and vinyl. But yeah, tile is one that you should probably try to mention something about tile in every listing description if there's tile. And in that same vein is if there's upgraded backsplash tile in the kitchen. Is it subway tile? Is it mosaic tile? Use the word tile, but then try to get a little more descriptive about it. If it's just plain old tile, just say tile floors throughout, easy maintenance. Try to think of something good about just tile.
A question.
Yes.
How important is it to mention landscaping and gardening? Does that really, in your opinion, have any weight on drawing people in, or does that just tell people there's a whole lot more work to do outside?
Depends. I mean, if it has, I had a listing recently that the backyard was pretty much the star of the listing. People loved the backyard more than the house itself because they had fig trees and oak trees and a little pond, and people came to see it just to see that backyard. So if it's something special and they've really gone above and beyond, if there's already a vegetable garden, yeah, that would definitely be something I would mention. And if it's more expensive or rare types of trees or landscaping, absolutely. I would put beautifully landscaped, lush tropical foliage, plenty of shade for the kids to play. Try to think of something good about all of that landscaping that will make living in that home better for the buyer. And then, yeah, hopefully, if it's somebody who just doesn't want to deal with landscaping, they'll either let it all die or tear it all out. I don't think that's going to be a deal breaker the opposite way as far as, ooh, no, too much. But again, sometimes you have buyers who don't want any maintenance. They want a little patch of grass. So that's not going to be your buyer. And that's okay. Hopefully there will still be plenty of others who are looking for exactly what your house has to offer. Sorry, I got sidetracked on the question. So we were talking about, okay, yes, emphasize your features, anything special. I had one where the kitchen countertops were imported marble from the bottom of the Dead Sea, which I was like, okay. But I actually went and looked that up because I'll go around with my little notebook and then look. And I guess the process of doing that is very difficult. They can only harvest it at certain times of year. And so it's a remarkable feature. So that definitely made it into the listing.
Was it pretty?
It was gorgeous. Question?
That's some sizzle.
Add, well, and words are sizzle to me. I'm a bookworm wordsmith. So to me, I mean, that's how you make things sizzle, is finding just those right words. And again, your keywords are definitely going to help you. And I hope that when you're sitting down to write a listing description, just having some keywords in front of you is going to spark your mind to start going down these pathways and say, okay, well, no, it's not a Bosch dishwasher, but it's brand new stainless steel Samsung appliances, still under warranty. That's another good thing to add. In Florida, if you have a listing that has impact windows, or a condo that has just replaced all the windows and sliders and redone the rebar and concrete, these are all things you want to emphasize because, you know, natives and newbies alike worry about storms living in hurricane shutters. Yes, absolutely. At any, if they've done, well, when I was working for the developer, there was extra roof trusses and all kinds of different things that would help save on insurance and protect the home from high winds. So those were all things that we emphasized a lot because that's always a concern for people. You live on the ocean, especially people that live over on the beach side. You're on a barrier island. You want to know that your house is as safe as possible. So any kind of additional safety features for hurricanes are good. Does it have an alarm system? Does it have a gated driveway? Any of those little things are things that you want to emphasize after you get through your first line of your body with the real meat and potatoes, you know, number of bedrooms, number of bathrooms, pool, garage, you know, like the stuff people are going to go too big, too small, don't want it, or they keep reading.
We'll be careful now with the different boards because they want to fine us or flag us for something, sometimes no matter how minute. Has it changed very much that we're allowed to mention family oriented, bring the family, or mention the word family?
That's
Because
just where you gotta get, it's fair housing is just one of those tricky subjects, so you can't play like you're catering to one demographic. So you can't, anything that deals with familial status, so something that would deter a family with kids versus a family that doesn't have kids, like it definitely throws there. So it does seem them, wow, when you stop the car is like the tagline. I don't see anything, yeah.
But yeah, I guess, well, and again, that's not indicating any kind of, you know, what sort of partnership it is, who Honey is, it could be, you know, whatever.
But I do think when you start saying like perfect for the kids or perfect for a family with kids, that's when you start crossing that line and don't want to say anything like that.
is
But
that
Well,
still the
But if I always felt like, and again, I haven't run into any issues with this before, but if you're saying it in regard to a specific feature, like a fenced yard would be great for someone who had small children or pets. That's not saying it's not great for a single person who decided not to have children and is hardly ever there. But it is a feature that would potentially appeal to a certain pool of buyers who have a big dog or who have little kids that they don't want running out onto the street. So when I say family home, I'll usually make sure to emphasize it with specific features. Or if I talk about it being a split plan, where you've got the master on one side and the kids' rooms on the other, I'll say offers extra privacy for family and guests or children and guests. Just to, you know, it's a bit of a tap dance, yes. But I have found that as long as you link what you're saying to a specific feature and don't use it as a way to exclude anybody but that demographic, I think you're usually, you know, gonna be okay. I mean, I haven't run into any issues
You
with
never
that.
wanna say like neighborhood has tons of kids, tons of families with kids, like that's not what you want.
Yeah.
But
Can you guys hear Justin on Zoom, his input?
Yes.
Yep, no problem.
Okay, good. It's good stuff. We definitely do. I mean, listing descriptions are an area where if you say the wrong thing, you could get yourself into trouble. So just make sure that anything you say, you are connecting it to a specific feature of the home. I've also, that's another thing is, don't say, unless you have the paperwork from the contractor or the septic company or the roofer, don't say brand new septic. Don't say sellers just replaced X, Y, and Z. Unless you've seen the documentation, no. I mean, if they ask you, you can say the sellers tell me that they redid the roof in 2016. But if there's no permit for that on file and there's no paperwork, and then it turns out that someone comes and buys the house and then the septic melts down or the roof starts to leak, and they come and say, well, you said right here in your listing description that they just redid this whole septic system 2 years ago. And what was it that Fritzy used to say? Buyers are liars and sellers are too. So take everything with that grain of salt and do your research. Go to the property appraiser's office and see what permits have been pulled. Because most of the time someone says we just replaced the roof 2 years ago, there's a permit. This is one I just ran into where they enclosed the carport and started to convert it to an extra bedroom and bathroom. So I could have said already, you know, in the process of turning in, you just have to finish the work. Well, no, it's not permitted and it's going to have to be all torn out and turned back into a carport or done properly. But yeah, always make sure you're covering yourself as far as what you say. Be very careful.
I want to embellish on that a little bit.
Yeah.
I just went through it 2 weeks ago, with all that rain we had.
Mm-hmm.
It was my daughter and her husband's home. So they bought the house in March based on the listed agreement. It said newer roof. Seller's property disclosure said 2019.
Mm-hmm.
It started to leak. We called the guy who put it in. Come to find out it was 2017 and their warranty is only for 2 years. So be careful what you say about the roof and definitely check the permits because it does come back to, and in our case, it was the negative.
Yeah, and you know, beyond listing descriptions, I know a lot of people like to do video walkthroughs. I know it's a different topic, but it ties into this in a way. If you're doing a video walkthrough showing of your listing, be careful what you say. Don't say anything that you don't have verified. I keep mentioning septic system because I have a friend in the business that happened. They did a video, said the sellers had just replaced the entire septic system. Come to find out, they were not being honest. They did not replace the drain field. The drain field failed within a couple weeks of closing, and now then there was a lawsuit. And because that was said on video or in your listing description, you can be held responsible for that. So yeah, make sure that you're doing all your research and verifying everything that the seller tells you as much as possible. And if you can't verify it, you can always answer a question from a buyer or fellow agent with, well, the sellers say that this was done, but I highly recommend a professional inspection. That's always my fail safe is get it inspected, or if there's in Ormond by the Sea, everything's on septic, get a septic inspection. That's separate, but always good to know because that can be an expensive repair and a nasty surprise.
I have a question.
Yes.
So in your description, if you say, roof redone in 2019, whatever, but you always add buyer and buyer's agent should do home due diligence, would that cover you?
It would, I wouldn't put that in the listing description if you can go and verify that there was a permit pulled for that
Well,
roof.
yeah,
Yeah,
but I
then
mean,
I would just say roof redone in 2019 and leave it at that. But then, in the negotiation phases, like when I'm talking to another realtor or a buyer, I always recommend a professional inspection. There's people who will do their own. They just want to kick the tires and turn the faucets. But I never recommend that. I always try to, cover myself and the other agent too, for that matter, as far as you should always have a professional, a WDO inspection, because this is Florida. We have termites, we have bugs. The home inspection to look at the major components. And then if there's septic, you get a separate septic inspection. And people can take your advice or leave it, but at least you offered up that advice to give them that due diligence. Yes.
I think one of the things that Beth was pointing to was a lot of times you see in the listing description, it says, all measurements are approximate and gathered from the property appraiser's website. Buyers should do their own
Yeah,
due diligence
that's
for
true.
measuring. It's kind of just a disclaimer saying that.
Is that
we didn't
normally,
verify it.
is it in the description itself or is it in the agent remarks?
It's usually at the end of the description.
And yeah, so you can add that. I mean, it is an extra level of protection. So yeah, I mean, you absolutely can if you want to, just go that little extra mile. So we've got our body for the most part. We've talked about the kitchen, bathrooms, again, any upgrades that have been done as far as, the tile, any decorative elements, anything that sets the listing apart, you definitely want to include that. The last part, well, second to last part, I always like to do sort of a closing about local interests. So this is always really nice, whether you've got a fixer-upper or a luxury home. There's so many great things about living in Florida and our different neighborhoods around here. Is the home near a park? Is it steps to the beach? Is it a driving beach or a no-drive beach? Is it close to shopping, restaurants? Those are all things that you can emphasize. A lot of times, I tend to do a lot in Ponce Inlet, and I'll have, Ponce Inlet is, home is located in the charming town of Ponce Inlet, and kind of go, short walk to Ponce Inlet Lighthouse, Marine Discovery Center, nature trails, Lighthouse Marina. And that's how you can get in your fishing, golfing, beach, ocean, all those keywords that people look for. Look for things nearby that make that property's location more appealing. And you have to be careful what you say about schools, like excellent schools. Well, what's your definition of excellent? And what if you're wrong? And it's not like, you would never want to say like zone 4 Spruce Creek High School, because it might not be, or that might change, or that's definitely one of those areas where you could trip yourself up. But you could say close to schools, close to colleges, close to Embry-Riddle or Daytona State, or whatever. You can say something is nearby. You just don't want to talk about specific school zones. And again, is there a,
You can do A-rated school district.
as long as you check the district map and make sure it's actually,
Why we change it, check how we change this.
well, and now they've got variances too. So you can, I think at least for high school, they can pretty much pick whichever one they want. So I tend to focus on proximity rather than specific rating or information about the school itself. I try to stay out of putting any opinions on, again, Embry-Riddle is an excellent university. Well, that's my opinion. But I will say located close to Embry-Riddle University and airport, anything that's going to be a selling point for the location of the home. And that you can do regardless of the condition. There's always something good to say about a neighborhood. Is there a park nearby? Is it right around the corner from the grocery store? So you say easy access to shopping. Is there a renowned local restaurant, or, like in the case of Ponce Inlet, walking distance to several restaurants serving fresh caught local seafood. Those are just nice little extra things. Awesome. Speaking of roofing.
You said not mentioning schools, but aren't on the listings you put the school district that it's located in?
Some MLSs do, like
Yeah, or-
Stellar does.
Stellar does.
Stellar does.
So yeah, that's,
I was confused there for a minute. I was like.
Yeah, ours doesn't have like what school district it's located in, and if it did, that's fine. That's something you can look up and verify. I just tend not to express opinions about the quality of the school.
Right,
Yeah, like a rating or what the
Like,
opinion of it is.
Spruce Creek High School won't be a bad thing to say necessarily.
Right. Because then they can do their own research on Spruce Creek High School and find out if they think that that's a good thing or not. But yeah, it's true with the entire description. You want to try to say as many positive things as you can about your listing, make it stand out from every other listing, but don't get yourself in trouble by saying things that, you know, are too much your opinion or that can be taken, you know, as a violation of fair housing rules.
As you say, with local interests like landmarks, like if you live close to a landmark like the Mormon, not close to the casements,
Mhm.
or, you know, if you're close to something that just has a significance that a lot of people are gonna Google search, if you put that in your listing description, the Google grabs the whole of your listing description.
And go one
So-
step further and say why. In the example of the casements, you say, enjoy summer festivals at the casements. Or fishing and walking trails available at the like say, don't just say casements, but why? Why is that good? Like some people have never heard of the casements. So you could say the historic casements, home of John D. Rockefeller and festivals all summer long. You know, yeah, so try to not just what, but why. And that's gonna, again, make yours stand apart. And honestly, I have my little descriptions of, you know, Ponce Inlet or Port Orange or certain parts of Ormond where I'll keep pulling from those into a listing that's in that neighborhood and then just tweak it a little bit. Because a lot of times staring at a blank page is really intimidating.
Yes.
And yeah, and you can get lost in your own head. You don't know where to start. So these are just those little things, anything you can do, your keywords, your bits and pieces and snippets from other descriptions you've done. Never delete one. Keep a listing description file on your computer. Because like someone like Ed has so many listings within the same neighborhood. So there's a lot of great things about Fairway Estates that I'm sure you could say over and over in slightly different ways, but that's something you can kind of copy and paste and at least get a roadmap for where your description is going to go.
It's interesting you say that. I've had other agents pull my description verbatim and use it in their listings.
Plagiarism, that's what I said, rule number one, no plagiarism. Well, because anyone can start typing some of the text into Google and find out that you just ripped that off from another agent. And then what does that say about you as an agent? If you can't even write your own listing description, well, gosh, maybe they should have gone to Ed in the first place because he's the one that they're plagiarizing. So yeah, you never want to do that. However, there are ways to get inspiration and ideas. And, you know, I mean, come on, they can do the basic bare minimum of rewording things, saying the same thing, but in a different way. But yeah, you never want to take verbatim from somebody else's listing description or anything on the internet because it's just so easy to find. Back to publishing, there was an author who was incredibly well known, very well respected, had a ton of fans, got caught plagiarizing about this much of a paragraph in one of her books. And it was because now they've got all those different checkers you can run through Google, ruined her whole career over a paragraph. So it's just not worth it, ever. Okay, so we've got, you know, our attention grabbing tagline. This is where we definitely want some sizzle. And then we've got our body, the basic features, plus what's gonna go above and beyond, what makes it special. Try to make this as keyword rich as you can. And then we've got our local interests. And then what's the last thing you want in anything you write for internet marketing?
Call to action.
Call to action. Thank you, Ed. Yes. What do you want them to do? Right. Schedule your private showing today. Call now, don't wait. Don't miss this one. This one won't last. Call now. Because otherwise people are, people read everything, they've gotten to the very end, but then, what is it that you're asking from them? What do you want them to do? All right, so one of my things I always recommend, unless you are a very confident writer, and even sometimes if you are, I don't recommend typing your listing description straight into MLS. Because I know you're there, you're putting the listing in and you've got the box. The box does not have the same spelling and grammar check capabilities that your Microsoft Word program does. Please unleash your inner editor. Do not have spelling and grammar errors in your listing description all the time. It drives me bananas.
Not just the pictures,
What?
not just the pictures, sometimes the pictures
Oh,
are for real.
yeah.
A picture speaks 1,000 words,
You
right?
read the text, it's like, oh, what's it?
Oh, yeah, that makes sense. Yeah, so again, if you can't spell check, why should they want you to sell their house? Take that extra time, type it out in Word, and then once you've got your basic framework, you've got this all done, step away for a few minutes if you can. Go do something else, and then come back to it and look at it again, and look at your notes and say, did I miss anything? Is there anything else I can add here that's going to make it stand apart? Did I miss any features? Should I maybe condense that sentence a little bit? You want to say as much as you can in as little space as possible, because they say most people have the attention spans of squirrels. So if you get too wordy, you're going to lose your audience. You want to keep it, you want to keep your writing tight, to the point, succinct, and try to say as much as you can in each sentence without a whole lot of fluff. And keywords are not fluff, by the way, because those are what are going to get your listing attention on the search engines. So once you've done your last edit, you've proofread, then you can copy and paste it into MLS and you're good to go. Now, if your listing is not getting the attention you had hoped it would, or it's sitting a little longer, I know in this market that doesn't happen as often, but don't be afraid to go back and tweak it. If you find out there's something else nearby or something that you didn't add before, you can always just, change listing and change things around a little bit. We already talked about the pitfalls of poor spelling and grammar. Can you guess what my other #1 pet peeve about listing descriptions is? I see it and I just want to scream. Anyone?
Run-on sentences.
All caps.
Oh.
All caps. How many of you have seen listing descriptions typed in all caps? I know I'm dating myself here, but does anyone remember Crazy Eddie? The commercial where you'd be watching your TV show or whatever, and all of a sudden here's this guy screaming at you about, I'm Crazy Eddie, my prices are insane. Anyway, it was annoying and obnoxious. Nobody likes to feel like they're being screamed at. If you're going to do all caps, make it one word that you're emphasizing. Loads of potential or lots of charm. Okay, one word, that's cool. You're showing emphasis. If your whole listing description is typed in caps, your reader is going to feel like they're being screamed at. And that's never a good first impression to make for your listing. So yeah, spelling, grammar, caps. Those are the things to definitely look out for. Questions so far?
I have a question.
Yes.
I was late joining. When you say keywords, I'm pretty sure I understand what you mean by that. Could you could circle back and explain it to me, please?
Sure. So here, Justin's gonna come hold the paper up.
No, I think we had sent the link.
Oh,
I'm gonna
did we?
reshare it. Yeah, there's a,
Okay, cool. So yes, to go back into this a little bit because it's important. These keywords are what are going to help your listing get more attention when someone is searching on Google. If you have a lot of things that people typically search for, it's going to boost your listing higher into the search engine rankings. But there is another trick to get more people directly to your website and also set you apart from Zillow, Trulia, Realtor.com, and the hundreds of other syndicated websites that are going to be carrying your listing information. They get all of that directly from MLS. So when you have a new listing, have Vince help you do a landing page and put some original content on that landing page, information that's not in the MLS listing. Because when Google is determining search engine ranking, they're going to usually pick the bigger websites like Zillow or Realtor.com. And if they all have the exact same listing description, those are going to get ranked way up here, and your website is going to be way on like page 20, unless you hire someone to do your search engine optimization. But a quick way around that is to publish original content, because Google's going to look for which one of these is not like all of the others. Which one has some unique content that all the others don't have? Make sure that unique content is on your website and that you are directing buyers to give you a call. That is a really simple, and it doesn't have to be much. I mean, it can be a couple extra sentences. It can be just an extra little snippet about something. Obviously, you don't want to leave important details out of your MLS description, but try to just save that, those couple extra little things to put on your website to make it unique and get more hits and higher ranking.
Do you have an example of kind of what you're talking about?
Okay, okay, let's say you have a condo and you've got all the details in your MLS as far as what the minimum rental period is, whether they allow pets, whether the HOA documents are available upon request. Probably not going to put all of that into your listing description verbiage as well. So put it on your website, because it's still unique content. It's still something that's not published in the main description on MLS that gets syndicated out to everybody else. So it's still setting your content apart just a little bit. And it can be any little thing like that. If it's a home, even if you just change up a couple of sentences so that it's not verbatim what's out to everybody else, it's still going to push your ranking higher.
So reword.
Just a little, yeah, a little tweak. Use a couple different keywords in what you write for your website. Just anything that's not identical to what everybody else has, which those companies pay a fortune for search engine optimization. There's a reason they're always placed near the top. It's hard to compete with that as an independent business person. So that's just one of those little tricks that you can use that's going to get those search engines to go, ooh, this is something that nobody else has, and people are going to want to see this. And so yours is going to come up in the rankings.
Do you want to include furniture, or you want to keep that a separate negotiation?
Usually with furnishings, that usually comes out to be a problem when it's financing, when there's financing involved, and if you put a value on the furnishings, if I'm not mistaken. That's definitely a Justin clarification question.
Put it in there or everything negotiable? Or?
Yeah, you could say furnishings negotiable, or you can say fully furnished, but you're not placing a monetary value on the furnishings.
And don't itemize.
Right, no, yeah, don't itemize with a kind of value like includes $3,000 leather sofa. No. Just,
I've always been told leave furniture as a separate bill of sale between the seller and the buyer.
if you can,
If possible.
some of them will do, especially the vacation rentals, the condos, those come fully furnished and there's not really a value assigned to the furnishings. So that seems to just kind of go right through. But if you start itemizing the value of furnishings in your listing description or in the contract, that's when you start kind of running into trouble. And in that case, you want the buyer and seller to negotiate that separately. And you can just either connect them or whatever, say, yeah, you'll have to do it. Yes.
I just, everybody look in the chat in Zoom. The file should be in the chat. So you just have to click on the file that says SKM and then a bunch of numbers and letters. Can you see that PDF file in the chat?
Yep.
Okay, click on that. That's the keyword list.
Awesome. Thank you.
You got it.
Well, and this is one, you can find these all over the internet. Just type in keywords that sell, keywords buyers search for. This one, I think it was originally an HGTV list, and I took some, I forgot to remove mountain view. That's not really for us, unless you wanted to say, leaving the mountain views, how about the beach? Or trade your mountain view for an ocean view. There's creative things you can do with it. But yeah, and also trust yourself. For people who've been selling real estate for a long time, surely there are things you hear buyers and sellers say over and over and over again. You know intuitively that this is a question people are gonna ask, or something that people tend to look for. Make your own keyword lists as well. Like, what would you be searching for as a buyer or seller? And I tend to do new searches every couple months or so, just to kind of, see if things have changed, see what new things people are looking for, and see if I can incorporate those into any of my descriptions. So it's something to definitely keep up on. But yeah, I have my little keyword file on the computer. So every time I start to write a listing description, I'll pull up my keywords. And that's where I start, is looking at my notes and then going, okay, which of these apply to this listing? And again, of course, you never want to put lipstick on a pig. Don't oversell. Don't say something is move-in ready, gorgeous, incredible, close to the beach when it's out by 95. I mean, this is
It's relative.
yeah, exactly. I'm sure that people say that a lot. But and I mean, again, it doesn't mean that people don't do that. You'll see it a lot. And after this class, pay attention to the listing descriptions you're reading, because I think you'll be able to pick out gremlins a little more now, but also look at what looks good, what draws your attention. And don't plagiarize, but think, oh, wow, I really like how they said that or emphasized that, or gosh, I didn't know that street was so close to Pictona. Like, always keep an ear out for new content, new keywords, new features of interest when you're out and about by yourself, family, friends. If you find some great restaurants, great local attractions, make a little note. And then the next time you have a listing near those things, you can always put in there that, something that's a great experience, whether for shopping, dining, leisure, or education.
So one thing to tag on to that, so you have your listing descriptions, but don't ever let that affect what you're selecting as listing features. So when you're putting the listing into MLS, if the property sits in a subdivision that offers a community pool, don't forget to check off community pool. If you see a lot of people, that's even if it's a one-story house, they'll actually check the fields that say 1 bedroom down, 2 bedrooms down, because what happens is if you have people that are searching for homes all over the country or all over the state, and it's a 2-story home, maybe they don't have a 1-story only, and they want 1 bedroom on that first floor. Well, a 1-story house with 1 bedroom down will fit that field. But if they have that selected as a search and you don't have that put in your features, your house doesn't show up. So make sure when you're putting in those features of what your home has, that you're thinking about what you do for buyers when you're setting them up on a home search in MLS, and make sure you're checking those same features. I saw a house, a beautiful house in a pool community, and they didn't check off that there was a pool in the community. So that's a huge selling feature that people look for. And you're just completely excluding it as a non-pool home just because it doesn't have its own private pool.
Well, and we had one that knew of one that had a screened in-ground private pool.
With a hot tub.
With a hot tub. None of that was checked in the MLS. None of it. It was, it said nothing about the fact that there was a pool, screened pool, private in-ground pool, hot tub. Like, don't.
Did they fire their agent? They should.
Don't get me started. I could say a lot about that one, but I won't. Never miss a chance to emphasize a feature.
No, I see, and there's homes all over Deltona that I see this listed for, not next to the Amazon distribution center, but say they're 10 minutes from it. They'll say minutes from just Amazon. I mean, it's 10 minutes, still minutes, but it's not that close.
Yeah, be as honest as you can. I mean, there's nothing worse than, well, I mean, I'm sure there are worse things, but it's never good to have people come back to you and say, well, you said it was minutes away and it took me 20 minutes to get there. Yeah, it's still minutes. It's less than an hour. But when people read minutes to, or steps to, or easy walking distance, they really do expect it to be in fairly close proximity. I would say under 5 minutes. I would say minutes too. You want to be as honest as possible while emphasizing everything that your listing has to offer. And it's not an impossible task at all. I mean, every listing has something to recommend it, something. So, I mean, again, it might be a total fixer-upper, but maybe it's got a split floor plan, or giant bedrooms, or a big corner lot, or close to shopping schools and restaurants, great location. There's always something good and true that you can emphasize, rather than getting a little too colorful and fast and loose with the description. So you draw people in, but then they're mad because they feel like they've been, drawn in falsely. So you never want that.
There was an agent in Orlando, this was just a short while ago, described the property, it was an absolute dump. And their description of the property was, this is following that, like he went overboard on how bad this property was. And it made everybody look at it, it sold almost immediately. And it made, I think, national news on some of the media because they had the description of it. And everybody who's in real estate has probably seen that ad, but it was just, it was a work of art the way they did that.
If it was
funny,
for listening,
it was
I'm thinking
great.
it was
It was
hilarious.
really well.
Well, yeah, and be creative, as long as you're not violating any fair housing laws or being offensive in any way, it's not a problem to make a little joke in your
Have some fun.
tagline. Yeah, have fun with it. Well, I've seen people write listing descriptions like their personals ads. 3-bedroom, 2-bath, single-family home, looking for owners who love walks on the beach and great
Like
big bedrooms with
pina
sturdy
coladas.
locks, yeah, you can definitely have fun with it, especially as you build confidence, and the more you write, the more it's going to come naturally to you, and you'll feel it'll get easier to step outside the box a little bit and throw a little sizzle on it.
If you go back and edit the description,
Mhm.
after a period of time because you're not getting the attention that you think you should be getting, does that send out updated description to everybody?
You
Does
saying
that,
something about my writing?
well, apparently she's the best. Is it
You wrote
something,
her listing description? or
he
no?
helped, yeah, he absolutely did. Is it something that
I don't know.
that
Will it say
shows that
updated?
updated description, does that get sent out to everybody? Does it make you look bad? Like
Everybody,
you're-
I think like the third-party public sites, like the realtor.coms and the Zillows, they check periodically, I think it's every 15 minutes for changes, and I know they'll update the photos over time. It just depends on their
But
specific.
is it gonna say?
Like say you went in and changed the price and everybody gets a notification that you did an
Yeah, they
update.
wouldn't get a
But no,
text
I don't think
change.
it does if you change the text.
Okay, so we're
Yeah.
gonna be like, okay, well,
No,
what
yeah,
changed? Why is she changing?
They could look in the history and see that you changed it and
Mhm.
see what you changed, but they'd have to look it up
They'd
as an
have to.
agent. yeah.
Okay, but the general.
And how many of us have time for that to go look at the history of the listing? But no, yeah, that's actually a really good question.
I didn't know
because
if it would be
I didn't
like,
think it was one of those where everybody gets a notification, this has been changed. But yeah, no. So, and again, it's better to go back and make a little change if you feel like you didn't quite get it right the first time than to just not make the change and leave it languishing.
has anyone used anything pertaining to the Speedway as a positive?
Sure. I mean, if it's close to International Speedway, or, some people they're looking for vacation homes to come down here and be close to the events, or they want to come and buy an investment property and rent it out to people coming in for the races. So yeah, that would be a good feature
Speedway's
for a
huge.
certain
Yeah.
pool of buyers.
So that could
Yeah.
be a landmark. to
Yeah,
people where the property is.
absolutely.
I mean, again, the description wouldn't be sit and stand still traffic while they wait to enter the race.
Yeah, we would
But-
focus on the good.
Make sure you know the times of the race.
And
when
you can
wanna
see,
go out.
hear the cars turn around or.
We
turn,
thought that was cool
It
when we
was,
moved
it
here, and
was.
we'd never watched a NASCAR race ever, but our first apartment was out on Clyde Morris and Bevel. And we would sit on the patio and we could hear the Rolex cars going all night.
All night.
And again, at
we do.
20 years old, that was really cool. I think it would have been really annoying now, if I could hear that constantly. Oh, bike week.
I wonder if I may.
Yes, of course.
I haven't fixed rubber, we're under contract, but I want you to critique how I started it.
Okay.
Possibilities abound for this property located at the end of a quiet street.
That's good. I mean, you're saying it's possibilities. That's good. It indicates that it is a fixer upper. End of a quiet street. Is it tree line? Are there sidewalks? Is it near parks?
So I could have added.
Yeah, you can
more.
just add a little bit more, but you know, sometimes it's better to have a little less than you need than too much. So if you have a good way to say that and add just that little extra sizzle, I love that word now, sizzle, do it. It can't hurt, but just try not to get too wordy and go with these long run-on sentences. Try to keep your writing as succinct as possible.
Did you ever read The Worst House on the Street listing?
Mm-mm.
I pulled it up.
Find it.
Yeah.
Okay.
Oh my gosh, it's amazing.
All
It's
right,
It's a little long, but
That's
it's,
all right.
it's comical.
So to close out our class, I know everybody's got very busy schedules. This is an infamous listing description.
Thank you, Jess. I gotta go. Thank you. Bye.
Here it is, literally the worst house on the street. The seller has done the hard work of cleaning up the almost half-acre property. It only took 7 dumpsters. So now is your chance to take it from here. Have you ever watched HGTV and thought, I could do that? If so, pack up your tape measure and start Googling how to identify a load-bearing wall, because it's time to put your money where your mouth is. The roof leaks, the floors creak, and there's a terrible draft. But this 3-bed, 1.5-bath home is very open concept. And by that, we mean the inside is open to the outside because several of the windows are broken. This is genius. There's a large sunny window in the kitchen and absolutely nothing else. A wonderful feature for someone interested in a bright reading space and ordering takeout for every meal. Now, I know you've heard of a detached garage, but have you ever heard of a detached foundation? Because that's what you'll find here in the large bonus room at the right of the home. If you're looking for a house that screams, I've got bizarre and ominous energy, then honey, stop the car because you found it right there, conveniently located off US 301 in North Zephyr Hills. Oh boy. If you need a place to stage your next post-apocalyptic zombie movie, this is it. The covered porch has really good rest here on your way to the safe zone vibes. And whether you like to turn up the heat or keep it cool, it won't matter here because there is no HVAC system. Oh, and don't forget about the brick chimney that perfectly epitomizes how we all feel after 2020, about to collapse and going nowhere. Literally, there is no fireplace inside this house. What else can we say about this one-of-a-kind opportunity? It's not in a flood zone and will be conveyed with clear title. See, emphasize the positive. But we don't have a survey and the seller has never seen the property, so buyers are strongly encouraged to do their own due diligence. There you go. And if you're not interested in crying yourself to sleep every night while you rehab this home, might we suggest tearing it down and building a brand new one in its place? The neighbors would likely thank you.
Great.
Genius.
That's awesome.
And you know what? That is so unique. I'm sure it got so much attention.
That house sold in days.
Of course.
It's
of
sold
course
and
it
now
did.
it's relisted for 220. It was sold for like it was listed for 69,000, but it's relisted for 225. I think. So it's-
Thanks, Jess. Great class.
All right, thank you for coming, Ed. Yeah, I mean, you know, again, when you get the basics down, you're gonna get more confident with writing these. And yeah, you know, it's okay to be funny. It's okay to be unique and creative. And yeah, use what you've got. And I mean, even a house that he could have basically said, he or she, I don't know, oh, this is a complete tear down, basically just a lot for sale. Boring. Whereas that was so much better. And of course, someone's gonna go, wow, if that agent took the time to really write this funny and engaging listing description that brightened up my day, this is someone who's good at their job. I'm gonna give them a call.
The new listing description was kind of bad, but I mean, they said formally described as the worst house on the block to one of the best in the area.
Okay, again, that's a slightly clumsy way of capitalizing off what somebody else did.
It was
But-
like this big.
Yeah, as long as it's not in all caps. Yeah, if you take nothing else from today, please do not type your listing descriptions in all caps and spell check, grammar check. Very important, because this is a first impression of you and you know what kind of realtor you are. So keep that in mind. And my cards are out front. You guys are always welcome to text me, call me if you have any questions or like, Jess, I've got a real doozy here, help. And I'm always happy to brainstorm.
Would you mind taking a look at mine?
Yes, I
Thank
can.
you.
All right, thank you so much for coming, you
Thank you
guys.
for
I
having
hope
us.
you learned something.